I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, everybody. Welcome, all my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people to the Let's Get Growing show, our Sunday edition, right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today, and we've got a great show ahead for you today. In fact, today is your doctor's appointment right here on the Let's Get Growing show. We've got Dr. Jeff joining with us here today to talk about gardening as medicine. And we're going to focus our discussion this time around on exercise in the garden. As we know that gardening is healthy in so many different ways, and it's great to have Dr. Jeff with us here to talk all about all the different aspects of how we can utilize our gardens as medicine for our health. So we look forward to that conversation coming up here in just a little bit. And then again, too, right here at the top of the show, let's go ahead and click that like button real quick, hit the thumbs up there, as well as subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Hit the bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming videos and live streams, and definitely share with all of your friends. Let them know about the Let's Get Growing show and all of our great guests that we have here every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. for all of you in the UK, and bright and early starting at 4 a.m. for those of you down in Australia. So again, thank you all for joining us from all over the world. We appreciate you here, and definitely a big, huge shout out to all of you who are also joining us on our replay. Thank you so much for taking your time to come check out what we've got growing on here on the Let's Get Growing show, and definitely drop into the comments. Let me know what you got growing on. I want to hear all about how your gardens are growing, and definitely if you are here with us live and you have any questions for our guest coming up, I'm sure you probably have lots and lots of questions for the doctor later, so definitely drop those into our chat. Put those in big bold capital letters so that I can mark those and get those fitted into our conversation later on too. So looking forward to all the great questions that you all bring to the show here. Again, it's one of the great things about doing this show is that not only do we get a great conversation with all these great guests that we have here on the show, but you also get to join in on the conversation, asking your questions as well too. So definitely drop those in big bold capital letters, and I'll make sure we highlight those for the conversation. Also, follow all the links down below to our guests and our other Urban Gardener and Let's Get Growing socials, definitely. So again, thank you all again so much for being here. What a great show, like I said, we have here for you today. Let's see here. Let's jump in and see if we can't say hi here first to our good friend Jay Dixon and facilitator of the show. Definitely keep an eye out there for links that Jay drops in throughout the show for further information on different topics that we're talking about. And if you got any channels or a channel and you haven't dropped in for a shout out yet, definitely let us know you're here, and Jay will get us a link for your channel so we can get over there and give you guys a great shout out. So thank you so much, Jay, for being here. Thank you for all that you do. Let's see here. We've got David, Bowtie Life in the Garden. Triple G, greetings, global gardeners. I love it. And again, too, we've got David here today for us for our In the Garden segment coming up here in just a few minutes. So again, thanks, David. We look forward to seeing that here in just a little bit as well, too. See, Janet was in a little bit earlier too. She says, yesterday's live was a lot of fun. Looking forward to today. Right on. And then earlier too, I see that MKP was in there as well too. Right on. Excellent. Thank you for being here. All right. Make sure we're getting in here. Oh, let's see here. We've got Dusty Flats joining in, watching a total lunar eclipse on YouTube. It's a total blackout now. Oh, wow. That's great. That's fun when you get an eclipse in your area as well, too. Right on. Excellent. All right, everybody. Well, again, thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for joining us here today. And lots and lots going on here. And again, too, drop into the comments, drop into the chat there as well, too. Let me know what you got growing on. Let me know how everything's going. And yeah, we've had a pretty great uh, pretty great time here in the Let's Get Growing Gardens and all of that. Right now, I'm just kind of keeping things up, and we're actually starting to cool down now from all of our really, really hot weather. We had one little last minute heat wave that actually has brought in a bunch of smoke from a fire that's burning here somewhere not too far away, or at least close enough to bring all of its smoke into our valley here. But we had a nice little rain, and which was really kind of funny is yesterday on the show, I was mentioning how nice it would be to have a little bit of rain to help wash away some of that smoke. And yeah, what do you know? We got a little bit yesterday. So that was nice to be able to get a little bit of rain dropping on our gardens here. And so, yeah, the plants are just loving it today. And I was just out walking around checking things out. But yeah, things are cooling down a little bit now. And I've got those fall veggie starts that we talked about last week. So I'm going to be getting those out into the garden right after the show today. I've been waiting for it to cool down just a little bit. So we're going to go get those out into the garden here this afternoon. So I'm looking forward to getting my fall vegetable garden started up, as well as kind of winding down some things that are growing in the garden, and a few other things that we've still got producing like crazy, as you'll see in some of our upcoming garden journal video that I've got coming out here this Tuesday. We're going to put out our newest gardening journal, and this one's going to be a little bit of a garden tour. We're going to take a look around and check out all the different things that are growing on, some of the things that are successful and growing well. And again, like I said, some of the things that are still growing and producing a lot. We'll get a look at that. And, there's several things in the garden too that aren't doing quite as well as I'd hope for them to do. But I think that we all kind of know and understand that sometimes some of our crops in each of our seasons just don't do what they've done in the past seasons before. So again, come check out our garden journal we've got coming out this Tuesday. And then I also have a premiere coming up for a video visit, a feature visit we did a little while back. I went down to go check out the Fig Hunter and their fig farm, basically, and just a really great place. They've got hundreds and hundreds of plants all over the place, and they have a really great website where you can go and buy different varieties of the figs that they grow there. And yeah, really great video. We'll be looking forward to that one here coming up this next Thursday. So definitely, like I said, you want to make sure that you've hit that bell notification so you can be notified when these videos are premiering this next week. And we got that Fig Hunter video out because we got something coming up this next weekend. I'll talk a little bit more here in just a little bit. But again, how's everybody doing today? Let's see here. I see that we've got the gardening channel with Hot Potato in the conversation. And I just want to mention he was on our show yesterday for our community show, and set up a giveaway for Dragonfruit, a Dragonfruit giveaway for everyone. And if you go down below in the link, I've got it in the description, there's a link to this video that he set up for us. And all you got to do is go in that video, let him know that you saw him here on the Let's Get Growing show, and let him know that you love dragon fruits. And yeah, just drop that comment into that video there to be entered for his dragon fruit giveaway. He's gonna give out, I think it's something like 8 pounds or something like that. Maybe he'll drop into the chat and let everybody know exactly what it is he's giving away there as far as the dragon fruit. But man, it would be a great to win that. So definitely go down and click that link down below. Go check out that video and leave a comment there. And I think he's going to be drawing for the winner of that on Tuesday. So you got till Tuesday, especially for those of you who are dropping in and checking out our replay over the next day or so. You got till Tuesday this week to drop that comment in there and get entered to win some of this dragon fruit, and then also help support another really great channel. He's got some cool stuff growing on that channel. You're definitely going to want to go and check it out for sure. Right on, right on. Right on. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, Bowtie is, Unhinged Gardener was frantically pounding the video editor right up to the last minute for his In the Garden segment coming up. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, we'll get that going here in just a minute. Let's see here. We got Dottie. Let's grow. Yes, indeed. Excellent. Thank you, Dottie, for joining with us. Thanks for being here today. Really, really appreciate it. All right. And let's see here. Make sure we're getting through here. Oh, and we got Shawnee Grows in here thinking about heading out to the garden property, making a list of what tasks are first. Excellent. Yeah. Make sure you got a good idea what you're getting done and getting going in your garden there so you can accomplish all those tasks. Oh, yeah, here we are. Alan from Hot Potatoes is free dragon fruit, 8 pounds, free delivery. Oh, yeah, he's going to deliver that free 8 pounds of dragon fruit. Man, that's a lot. Awesome. Excellent. So definitely go and check that out. Like I said, I got a link down below for that so you all can get into that drawing. And again, thank you all so much for being here. It's really great to have you here with us today, like I said, and definitely got a lot going on for today's show. So let's get moving right along today with our In the Garden segment with our good friend David from Bowtie Life.
Hey friend, Bowtie David here. Before we get started, I wanted to thank Enoch for continuing to include us in this segment for his Urban Gardener show. I really appreciate being part of this Sunday tradition, and it's a blessing to get to spend a few minutes with you in the garden. Today I wanted to share a story about strawberries, because they've taught me a lot about gardening and, well, a little bit about life too. Strawberries and I, we've had an up and down journey. The first bed we ever planted had 2 amazing years, and then 1 very bad year. By the 3rd year, it was so overgrown with runners and weeds that the whole thing choked itself out. And in full disclosure, I was overwhelmed too. The bed worked, but was wide and didn't have any defined paths. By the end of that 2nd year, it was impossible to walk through without stepping on strawberries. In 2023, we harvested about 20 pounds of berries. By 2024, barely 2 pounds. That was tough. And that was the moment I realized we needed to make a fresh start. This year, we started fresh with a new 12-foot by 4-foot raised bed, just for strawberries. A couple of months ago, when we first planted it, there were only 2 plants, 1 in each end. Since then, we've been steadily working on this bed, rooting runners and multiplying plants. And now, instead of just 2 plants, this bed has about a dozen and counting. That's progress. Being able to see more and more green filling in has been good for the plants, but it's been just as good for me. So let's take a closer look at what's been happening in this bed over the past couple months. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is knowing when to cut off runners and when to let them grow. During fruiting season, when you're focused on berries for eating, you cut the runners so the plant puts all its energies into the fruit. But when it's time to start preparing for next year, like we are right now, that's when we let the runners root. It's a clear shift in focus, 1 season for eating and 1 season for multiplying. And the beauty is that these strawberries are generous in both seasons. When it's time for fruit, they'll give you plenty of berries. When it's time for propagation, they'll throw out more runners than you think you can handle. Either way, the plants seem happy to give. So let's look at how to propagate strawberries from runners. First, spotting the runners. These are the long stems reaching out from a mother plant, with a baby plant and a tiny root node on the end. That's the runner. It's the plant's way of cloning itself.
Strawberry runners are like nature's copy machine. Each runner is a stem with a baby strawberry plant at the end. When it touches soil, those root nodes will start growing, and pretty soon, you've got a whole new plant.
Once you spot the runners, it's time to root them. I do this 3 ways. In a green stalk tower, I just pop the runner into the next empty pocket. Then the next pocket after that, and even the next one beyond. A single runner can give you multiple plants, one right after another, and some other plants will send out several runners at once. There is never a shortage. or I'll put it in a cup of soil, making sure it's a container with good drainage and one that will get watered regularly, and use whatever I've got handy like teacup hooks, paper clips, twisty ties, bobby clips, landscape staples, or frankly just a small stone to hold it down. Or I just let it root directly in the bed, planting that new runner as far away from the mother plant as the stem will allow. After it's rooted and strong, it can easily be moved out further once the runner has been snipped. No extras required, no root stimulator, just get the root node in the contact with the soil and nature takes over. After a week or two, you'll see roots forming. That's when it's time to cut the cord. I've had runners produce 2, 3, even 4 new plants on one stem. Each of those can be cut free and planted wherever you need them. And the good news is, strawberries don't mind if you disturb their roots. They're tough little plants, ready to stand on their own. After that, it's patience and care. Keep them watered, let them grow, and by springtime they'll be thriving. If you're in a colder climate, you can mulch them with straw or leaves to help them through the winter. But here in Zone 9B, our winters are mild. In fact, strawberries usually keep growing all winter long. The coldest spell we've had was 3 or 4 days down in the teens, and the strawberries thrived. The weeds all died back, and those dark green strawberry leaves stood proud. It was beautiful, almost like the plants knew their season wasn't over. A couple of quick extra notes. You can also divide a plant's crown into 2 if it's big enough. Another way to get more plants. And remember, strawberry plants don't last forever. In my garden, they usually live about 3 years, maybe 4 at best. That's why I keep propagating them. The older ones give us strawberries, while the younger ones take their place. I also like to tuck strawberries in different spots around the yard, so if one bed fails, another thrives. That gives me peace of mind. I learned this the hard way after losing about 50 runner plants to grass taking over. Since then, I've set up a propagation station in the south lawn near an irrigation head, where seedlings get regular water and are easy for me to manage. That system has made a big difference. And it's not just strawberries. I use that spot for the citronella cuttings we propagated in last month's segment, rosemary, Carolina jasmine from a job site, and now even sugarcane cuttings that have begun to take off. I traded about 30,000 loofah seeds with Daisy the Good for those.
So that's how we're turning a couple of strawberry plants into a whole bed for free. It's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. If last year was tough, don't let it stop you. Make this year a new start. And thanks to the Urban Gardener, Enoch, for letting me share this segment with you. And remember, strawberries are generous. In the fruiting season, they'll give you more berries than you could expect. And in the propagation season, they'll give you more plants than you need. That generosity is a reminder that in our gardens and in our lives, we can keep giving in every season. Your garden doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be yours. Have a blessed day.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. All right. Excellent. Thanks again, David, for another great in the garden video there on propagating strawberries and strawberry care. Lots and lots of great information there. And yeah, I got to get out myself and start setting up propagation cups for my strawberries out there as well, too. This has been my goal as well, to start getting more new plants into my garden. And I saw we saw Alan here from Gardening Channel with Hot Potato asking, why do strawberry plants only live 3 years? And really, it's not that they live for that long. I've got strawberry plants out there that have grown for 6, 7, 8 years now that I have. But what happens ultimately is that they lose energy in producing their fruits and the little strawberries, and the strawberries get smaller and smaller and smaller and less productive the plants get the older that they get. So they're really in their prime basically in those first 3 seasons or so. Maybe you'll see some decent ones into that 4th or so, but yeah, they definitely just wind down their energy, and that's why they produce so many runners. That's why they do all that sort of thing, is so that the strawberry plants themselves can just keep producing new plants to produce better and better fruits each and every season. And so you can also really tell that too, and but how old your plants are is when you start looking at that crown. That crown's going to really just kind of get longer and bigger and create just stretched out, and at that point you start seeing that thing really stretching out. After a couple of years, it's definitely kind of wound its life down, as we would say, and then it's time to get some of those runners propagated so that you can get some new plants into your garden. And that's what I've got to do here for sure over the hopefully this next week or so. I'm going to get some new cups out there and everything. I'm going to take David's inspiration here from his in the garden segment and get out there and get my new plants going myself. And one other thing too, I noticed in that video, did you all notice the little red rocks all over the place too? Right? This is something I've been meaning to do as well too. This is something that I learned and have heard that it works pretty well. And maybe David, you could share about how well that possibly works within your garden and all of that. But is to, paint out little red rocks so that birds will get they'll come down there and try to get them and learn that they're not actual fruits, and so they'll start ignoring your bed, is at least what I've heard. I haven't had a chance to do that. I've actually been trying to pass that chore off to my daughter for a little while. She's big into painting and art and all of that. I was like, make me some little strawberry rocks that I can put around my strawberry beds in order to deter some birds from going into my into the strawberry beds for sure. Good to see you, Wickedshire. Thank you so much for being here. And again, thanks again, David, for putting together that really great in the garden segment for us. Just really awesome there. Excellent. And let's see here. Let's actually real quick, I just wanted to go over what we've been doing here. In fact, if y'all didn't get a chance to join us yesterday we had a community show for our Let's Get Growing show, Saturday show. And that's where we invite all of you, our viewers, to be our guest on the show. And it's just been a really, really fun show that we've been doing this year, inviting everybody who normally views and we see in the chat and all of that onto the show so that we can meet them and talk to them about their gardens and all of that. And as I mentioned, we saw Alan from Gardening with Hot Potato on there and talked about that Dragonfruit giveaway. Again, link down below in the description for all of you. And yeah, really great show, really fun. Go back and check that out. Meet some of the folks that you see in the chat, and we'll definitely let you know when we come around to another community show down the road. Also, real quick though, too, last week on the show, last Saturday's show, in fact, we had a really cool hangout with our good friend Jay Dixon, our facilitator of the show. She joined with us on a little early Halloween giveaway, handing out treats and all that sort of stuff for her neighborhood there at her home and all of that. And she was all dressed up and everything. But we focused our talk on fall gardening starts and talking about getting our fall gardens going and all of that too. So we got a lot of great information last Saturday. You'll want to go back and check that show out too. And last Sunday edition of the show, we had a really fun. It was garden party time for another garden roundtable here on the Sunday edition. And we had the garden party with us. That's a garden party podcast with Destin from the Texas Garden Guy, Phil from Phil's Figs, and Dez from Gardening with Dez, and their newest edition, which we surprised the original Garden Party lineup with Josh from the Plant Techie joining with us as well too. So that was a really fun show this last Saturday. You'll want to go back and check out that show as well too. And like I mentioned too, we got that video coming up here for the Fig Hunter on Thursday, and we're going to have that video out to kind of set us up for our fun show that we're going to do this next Saturday. This next Saturday, we're actually going to do our first live on location at an event show at the Fig Fest in Northern California. And that's going to be really fun. We'll go and check out this show and see if we can do this. This is going to be a real test for us to see if we can't do a live show. And, we'll see, like I said, it's a test. We'll see what we can do and get things ready. As I want to do more of this type of thing where we can get out and go to some of these events and do live shows and interviews right there with folks who are attending those events. And, really, I'd like to get out, and we're going to test out at this show to see what, if we can get it done and what we might need in order to do it better down the road. Is I'm hoping to get us out to Seattle this next February for the Northwest Flower and Garden Show, which is I think it's like the second biggest gardening event in the United States. So we want to get up there and do a live show from there, which would be really fun. So we're going to give it a test this next Saturday. So you'll definitely want to come and join with us next Saturday for the live at the Fig Fest for sure. Right on. Excellent, everybody. And so definitely go and check all of those out, and definitely come and see us this next Saturday as well too. All right, everyone, it's time for our appointment with Dr. Jeff. All right, everybody. Let's welcome Dr. Jeff Pierce to the Let's Get Growing show today. Here he is. He's back. Right on,
Howdy.
Man. Excellent.
It's fine.
Excellent.
How you doing, Enoch? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Excellent. How you doing? How's things going?
Fine. Just fine. It's a beautiful, warm day here in Southern California. I am in the Palm Springs area at a amazing conference put on by a group called the Plantrition Project. I have a little bit of their swag here, the Plantrition Project, and it's basically helping doctors and other clinicians to learn more about the healthy aspects of eating more plants, basically. And super excited. They just announced that our a quick start guide for starting an edible garden and the health benefits associated with that is just coming out. And I wrote that along with Dr. Scott Stoll, who runs this organization. And it's a great group and a wonderful conference. And I recommend folks to check it out. And it's actually not too late to join, and you can get access to the presentations that have already happened, as well as the ones to follow for like up to a year. And it's a good weekend.
Oh, excellent. And where would folks go in order to get a hold of that?
Yeah, probably the easiest is to look up the plant-based. It's PBNSG, Plant-Based Nutrition and Healthcare Conference, and pbnhc.com, and that's where all the conference registration would be. I've been here multiple years. I love the work that they do, and they've been really supportive of gardening and the health benefits associated with that. And they work actually. They have a working relationship with Rodale Institute, which folks probably know is really what helped put organic growing on the map in the United States. It's all about healthy soil, healthy plants leading to healthy people and healthy communities, and you just don't see that conversation happening between, you know, doctors and the farmers and the patients. It's really
Yeah.
powerful what they're doing.
Yeah, that's really great too. Again, you know, a part of exactly why, you know, we've wanted to have you on the show, you know, on a regular way too, is to really kind of have that conversation as well more, you know, because like you said, it's uh, gardening and growing, you know, has as we've talked about before, has so many different health benefits, and it's in just a wide array of it. And it just makes sense that you know, more and more doctors get out there and start talking about this stuff, and getting the information too on how to actually talk about and get this out as well too for folks, so they can learn to you know, have a, you know, add a little bit more health to them, their lives with you know, just growing a garden.
Yeah, yeah. There are. I will say that there are probably not a lot of doctors and physician assistants and nurse practitioners prescribing growing some
Hmm.
tomatoes to their patients right now. But I think the more we learn about it and see how powerful it can be on so many different levels, hopefully the word will get out.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I've got an appointment coming up with my doctor coming up real soon, and I think after this conversation, I'm going to be mentioning a few things as well too, and passing that along, because I think,
Nice.
and maybe for other folks as well too, maybe they talk about that with their doctors, you know, and what they do and all that sort of stuff, to share, just kind of share your experience with your doctor and how gardening is helping you, and maybe that'll just kind of, you know, kind of inspire them a little bit, you know, to be thinking about that a little bit more, right?
I love it. Yeah, I think, you know, once the Plantrition Project gets this edible garden guide up on their website, then I'll let you know, and that'd be a fun thing to bring to your doc. You're like, hey, you know, here's this. It
Yeah.
looks like there's some health benefits to growing some fruit and veg. Have you seen this before? That would be fun. They'd probably look at that and be blown away.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. For sure. And again, too, it's just through experience. You know, I didn't even really need a doctor ultimately when it came down to it. You know, in my own experience in the garden, to see how much it was kind of benefiting me and that sort of thing. You know, on all different levels and everything. But you know, there's a lot of folks out there who kind of need to be inspired a little bit to kind of learn about this, and passing that along to your doctor so they can pass it along, maybe, you know, just kind of like, hey, maybe you should mention to folks, get out and grow some garden, and you know, start to spend time in nature more so, even, you know, to get those connections that really do benefit us. You know, I did want to mention too here, I think so, I saw someone say it as well, your shirt, uh,
Ah,
gardener,
yeah, yeah.
love
The garden
Christy over.
nerd,
Yeah, we love Christy over here as well
Christy
too.
Wilhelmi, and her
Yeah,
project. Yeah, she's great.
yeah, excellent, excellent. Love the shirt. I'm not. I got to get me a Urban Gardener one made up too, so I can get
For sure.
get folks weird an Urban Gardener one, right?
I'll wear it proudly.
That's right.
Just tell me where to buy it once you get it up.
That's
Yeah, you know, it's just to continue off to continue with what you were just saying there about
yeah.
the benefits of growing and getting out and eating what we're growing. One of the presentations this morning was put on by a just excellent dietitian from Canada, Brenda Davis, who has been
Mm.
publishing, what did they say today? It's either 12 or 18 books with over 1 million copies in print, and super sweet and smart lady. And she was talking about her project working in the Marshall Islands, which are located in the North Pacific, halfway between Hawaii and Australia, where they had the highest rate of type 2 diabetes on the planet.
Oh wow.
It went from, I forget what year they showed, where there were something like 2 people on the island known to have it. And then in the span of a couple of decades, it was up to something like 35% of the island had diabetes. And the most common surgery was amputations from
Oof.
infected lower extremity wounds and all that stuff associated with diabetes. And they came in and worked with the village leaders and partnered with the Ministry of Health. Very respectful work, and got people growing more greens, etc., because they're on an atoll, basically they're on these stretch of islands where there's very little growing space, and what they were mostly eating at that time, which led to the diabetes, was sugar sweetened beverages, spam, fried red and processed meats, and white rice, and almost no vegetables, no beans, et cetera. And so they got them growing more food they brought in a bunch of grow bags. I forget which, it's one of the, like earth bags or something like that. Got them growing there, expanding their growing space, got them switched off of those foods that were contributing to their diabetes, switched onto foods and exercise and other things that were getting them away from diabetes. And they've seen the adoption of these programs from the Ministry of Health. From the diabetes rate has dropped at least 10% since their work began.
Wow.
And it's just powerful to see how some of these interventions can really make an impact on an entire country.
Yeah. And that's why it's really important, not to get into it too deep, but that's why it's really important to have leadership and folks that are willing to, push and persuade people in these directions, that are better for our health and have our better health in mind, when it comes down to it. And a lot of it's, again, too, gardening is simple. It's something, that we can get out and do for ourselves that, really, it's a little work and all of that, and takes some effort and everything to put together. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit more today, is that exercise, the effort that we put into our gardens and everything. But even that is healthy, right? Even that helps us out in the long run as well too, so so it's really, I say simple, but it's something, it's a simple change in our lifestyle that we can make, that can be very, very beneficial. And especially for folks, like you said, who are dealing with like diabetic issues, which can be pretty much reversed through a lot healthier eating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, many times, particularly pre-diabetes and what we call type 2 diabetes are very, very much reversible in the majority of cases. And what's so powerful about coming to these conventions, for example, is that they've got people talking about, osteoarthritis. It was the lecture that I just left to come here. Someone was talking about the gut and the microbiome. Dr. Dean Ornish was just presenting on his study showing reversing early Alzheimer's disease, working better and more safe and of course with fewer negative side effects than the Alzheimer's medications out there. And this is all like top quality research done with like reputable institutions and stuff like that. And so you just see how by extrapolation, growing some food, having more access to fresh food, eating that is helpful on so many levels in so many ways. Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into this. I got questions. David's always dropping in some great questions for us here. Let's see here. He says, was there a turning point when you saw gardening make a major health impact in someone's life?
Well, that's a good question. Thanks, David. How you doing? Maybe I'll just talk about myself, if that's okay, about my gardening journey, where, I didn't garden at all before I got married, met my wife, got married. Didn't consider that I had any skill in doing it. And when I started growing, actually I jumped in with both feet because I was working with my wife who, started 50 plants from seeds that year or something like that. So it wasn't just with like 1 or 2 tomato plants, but over the years, I've seen that it has become my major, outside of what I have to do for work. I mean, it's what I do every day. And it is, when you talk to people about like, hey, did you work out today? Yeah, I got a good hour in at the gym or something like that. It's like days when I am not swamped with work or other family responsibilities, I'm in the garden spending hours of my day in there because there's always something to do, right? From pruning to picking to planting, etc. And that's like going for, so that's like going for a 6-hour hike. And I would rarely go, maybe I would do a 6-hour hike once a year or something like that.
Right.
So that's one of the benefits of how, for me personally, how it's converted my life away from being in the computer or in front of the computer, to just being up and about most hours of the day when I'm at home and have that opportunity to do that. I've kept that in mind as I've shifted my work. I'm shifting my work away from the hospital setting and more into seeing patients virtually from home. And that's also allows me to, I see a patient and then I run downstairs and check the, grafted avocado to make sure that the scion is still moist,
Right.
and not, cooking in the heat. And that just little nudge of getting me out of my seat is something that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise. And I would have just been, doing something else on the computer. So these things have just added up over the years to how it's now my way of life. And I'm just healthier in so many ways because of it.
Yeah, excellent. Let's see here. So, real quick though, too. Actually, you know what? Let me go right on to this next one real quick. That'll get some. How does gardening compare to formal exercise like walking or gym workouts? I think you kind of touched on that just a little bit there, but
yeah, but it's good to expand on it a little bit. I think. So, as we talk about gardening as exercise today, we're focusing on one aspect of it, right? I think the reason why gardening is so good for us, particularly growing stuff that you can eat, but not just that, but it's that, it's the exercise component. Yes. And we'll be delving into that in detail today, but it's also what you pick and what you eat. It's also the natural blood pressure lowering of spending time in nature, hearing the birds chirping. It's also the vitamin D from the sun. It's also, getting out in the morning, resetting our metabolic clocks and helping us sleep better at night. It's also the social connections of talking about it with your friends and sharing that, trying to pass off the extra zucchini and trading your peaches for somebody else's plums and all this kind of stuff. Like there's a ton of areas why growing food is good for us, or growing a garden in general is good for us. But if we're just going to think about the gardening for a walk, it's like, if you're burning 300 calories an hour on a walk or a hike or gardening, I think, so that's great that you are burning about the same amount of calories, depending on what you're doing in gardening, right? There's harvesting tomatoes is one thing, but like moving big amounts of soil and compost and starting a new bed is something else. So you have a variety of expenditures of calories, but also you're just doing so many things, right? So yes, you're walking, but you're squatting and you're reaching and you're, using your upper body, you're using your lower body, and it all just comes in. It's natural, right? I don't feel like I'm going to be Mr. Olympia based on what I do. I don't feel like that I can go run an ultra marathon based on my gardening, but that combination of things is so powerful because it's something that we do on a regular basis all throughout the growing season, maybe all throughout the year, depending on what your climate is. And so I think for some people, it's going out for a walk seems like it might be a chore. It's like, my doc says I need to go for a walk. I guess I got to do that now. But most people who have fallen in love with gardening don't think like, man, I've got to go out and see if my, delicious apple is ripe, right? Like you're looking forward to that and you're not thinking about it as exercise, but it's naturally exercise. And you want like the healthy choice to be the easy and natural choice, so that you don't even realize that you're getting exercise. And that's what I think is one of the key things about growing a garden.
Yeah. And you think about like in gyms and that sort of thing, of people who are working out, you'll find that people are doing so, they find ways to utilize natural movements and things, it's just simple, like, like rope stuff, or they're picking things up, like you see people like with tires or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can equate that to like a bag of soil or something,
Right.
in a way, right? And so even in the gym, they're trying to replicate these natural movements and everything that you can just do in your garden. It is, you don't have to go and worry about having the gym equipment, in a sense, even if it's other types of things, you see people swinging axes to chop wood, or all these sort of things, in order to create these natural movements, in order to whether you're working to build muscle or you're just looking for general exercise.
Yeah. And the most effective exercise is the exercise that somebody's going to do. Right. And so if for you, going to the gym is what you're going to do, then do it. And that's awesome. And that's what's going to be, that's what's going to contribute to, lowering your risk of diabetes, lowering your risk of colon cancer, cutting your risk of breast cancer, decreasing your risk of dying from a heart attack or stroke. Like, the thing that you're going to do on a regular basis is what's the most effective. But if you're thinking of like, then what you do in the gym and what you're doing in the garden, and there's a lot of similarities there. And then at the end of your workout at the gym, you gotta, re-up your monthly fee maybe on your way out, and you got, some dirty clothes that you got to wash. At the end of your session of gardening, you realize, well, that was mostly free, and I've got a bowl full of strawberries, right? So there's some perks there about doing it in your backyard.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking, if you're getting out and you're looking at your garden experience as a form of exercise, should we be stretching? Should we be getting ready for that exercise like we would be doing normally? I mean, I'm just saying, like, in the idea of maybe straining ourselves out or something like that. Say we're going to be going and lifting some heavy potted plants, or some of these big bags of soil and stuff like that. So we should probably be a little bit mindful as well, to the exertion that we're going into, right?
Yeah, I think be mindful of it. I mean, I personally don't do 10 toe touches and
right.
Do the arm windmills and stuff before I go out for a session of gardening. But yeah, some days are heavier work than others. And if I'm going to, I usually go and in addition to the compost we make at home, if I'm going to go get some like arbor mulch or some compost at the bulk place, I'm lifting these big buckets full of stuff. I try to do it mindfully by, bending at the knees and not at the back. Cause the lecture I just left was reminding us that we spend more on the clinical diagnosis and treatment of back pain than we do for cancer in the United States and for diabetes in the United States. Like, back pain is huge, and it's expensive, and it sucks. And so, like, you want to be careful on how you're lifting heavy stuff like that. I think, though, in general, because the gardening is so natural and so non-acutely strenuous, like running a 50-yard dash, we're less likely to pull something. Now, a friend of mine who I said, I'm not going to tell anybody about this, but I'm going to, a friend of mine who's a doc she's like, I threw out my back by, reaching down to pick a tomato. I'm like, oh no, you can't tell anybody because, that's, talking bad about gardening. But yeah, I mean, it can happen that you can hurt yourself while you're doing it. So just be careful and stay limber and stuff like that. But yeah, just common sense.
Yeah. I mean, in some senses, you think a lot of folks, even myself at times, I've picked up some things. I've done some things without really, thinking about it, and just reach right down and grab it up and, kind of come up and go, oh, wait a minute. Ooh. Yeah. I should have, maybe I should have, again, too, think about squatting down to get it and lift it up with your knees, right, versus your back and those sort of things, so just being really mindful of how we're going about some of these actions. Especially if we're just getting into exercising, right? If we're new to doing some of this sort of stuff, then that's probably where your highest potential of having something happen.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah,
that's a good point too. I mean, especially if you have pre-existing chronic illnesses, right? So it's a very large percentage of adults in the United States and around the world. and also a growing number of adolescents and kids are just living more with chronic illnesses, right? So if you have heart disease and type 2 diabetes and hypertension, high cholesterol, and you're like, it's the first day of spring and I'm going to, work for 8 hours in the garden and go at it. I mean, you could do something that's like seriously dangerous. And so you do want to be progressive about it. And, if you're already having chest pain, like talk to your doc before you pick up any new routine that involves increased physical activity. I mean, I don't know the data offhand, but I remember learning that you have an increased risk of death associated with the big, like, first heavy snow in those areas of the world where it snows over the winter, right? Because you've got somebody who is deconditioned, somebody who's not in great shape and has underlying coronary artery disease, and then they go out and the weather's cold and they work real hard. All of a sudden they go from 0 to 60 and shoveling really heavy snow. They have a heart attack and an arrhythmia and they die. And so you do have to be cognizant about how a big change, especially with pre-existing conditions, can be serious.
Yeah. Any certain things that we should be focused on as far as an approach to doing certain things for someone who is newer to gardening or exercise and that sort of thing? I mean, should folks, like I said, like I was mentioning there too, like squatting, like you maybe should squat down, lift with your knees, that sort of stuff, or just thinking about the type of exertion you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the vast majority of people, the day in, day out activities of gardening, even if you're new to gardening, for the vast majority of people, things are going to go fine. Unlike, hey, I'm recommending that everybody should deadlift. And today, day one, we're going to start with 300-pound squats. But it's also, as a doc, it's a great opportunity to say, okay, so you're interested in getting more active, whether it's with hiking or weightlifting or gardening. But you have been, you've been getting this neck and jaw and shoulder pain when you need to go up a bunch of flight of stairs in a hurry. Like, go see your doc or other health clinician. Go see them first before you do anything, and screen for those like killers, sudden heart attack and stuff like that. For the everyday Joe and Jane who is in perhaps better health and is not going to be doing anything too extreme, then the usual stuff. Bend carefully, bending at the knees, not at the back. If you're like, okay, I'm going to be moving a bunch of water and like heavy buckets of water, heavy buckets of sand, etc. Limber up a little bit. Don't do that first thing in the morning. Is do some easier, lighter stuff to where you are getting a little bit limber and ready to do it. But yeah, in general, I'm not too specific with recommendations.
All right. I'm also thinking of since say you got like you're digging some holes, you're going to put in a tree or something like that. So you're digging some nice big holes, but it's taking a lot of effort. I mean, should people be thinking about, taking a break after a while, or should you just kind of just go at it and get that heart rate up? You know what I mean? As I know when I'm out, on my bike that at the gym, I'm using that. I'm really specifically trying to get my heart rate up, so should I just be going at it and just really push my muscles and push the heart rate or whatever in any sort of thing that I'm doing? Or maybe I should be thinking about doing a little bit and taking a break or something,
Yeah. I mean, I think a couple things.
I guess we'd say like reps, you know what I mean? If you think of the gym, you're like doing reps, right? You kind of do a little bit, you kind of you stop for a second and then you go back at it and you do a little bit more for another rep or something, it's kind of what I'm thinking there.
Right. I mean, I think big picture, when you're looking at exercise pattern over years and how it affects chronic illnesses and life, longevity, all this kind of stuff, it probably doesn't matter, right? Like what matters is that you're doing something on a regular basis most days for an extended period of time. But sometimes you get to dig in and you're just like, oh yeah, this is a good workout. I'm going to push myself like I would on my run or on my bike ride or whatever. And you see it as like a sort of like intense or what we'd call vigorous exercise. And you're getting the benefits of that. When we recommend the amount of time to exercise through the CDC and et cetera, the recommendation is 150 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise a week, 2 days of some sort of muscle training, weight resistance type thing per week. And then especially as you get older, add some balance training to help prevent falls. And so, if maybe I don't have a lot of time to garden that day, and then maybe I will try to make that a vigorous thing to where I'm just pumping it out, knowing that if 150 minutes of moderate exercise is what's recommended in a week, actually equivalent would be half of that time, 75 minutes of vigorous exercise. What's the difference? Moderate exercise, like if you're going for a walk, you can still talk to a person in full sentences, and that's fine. But you can't, maybe you can't sing. So it's more than just like a slow stroll. But vigorous exercise, you can't talk in full sentences because you're having to pause for a breath. And so do I think about that much personally as I'm doing my routine? No, but I do know that there's a difference between low intensity, moderate, and vigorous. But in the long run, it doesn't really matter how you break it up. Just depends on, what you're feeling that day and what you got time for. But
maybe also considerations too. I mean, we live, for those of us who live in warmer climates, right? Maybe some things we should be thinking about, if we're out in the garden and it's warm and it's hot, those sort of things. Should we be thinking about limiting exercise based on heat, or maybe some precautions we should take?
Yeah. I mean, so for some folks, the only time in the summer, the only time you're going to get out in the garden is like before 10 in the morning and after, 8 at night or something like that, because it's 115 during the day, right?
Right.
And so that's fine, right? Get out in those times that you can. During the winter, where I live, which is zone 9B, and we get probably into the we're in the 30s and 40s at night during most of the winter. I don't want to work in the garden during the morning or the evening because it's too cold and dark, right? But I will get out when it's nicer at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. or something like that, if my schedule allows. And so for safety reasons, trying to avoid the heat of the day because of risk of dehydration and heat stroke, and that's real deal, right? Because especially if you have a pre-existing condition like diabetes and heart disease and all this kind of stuff, heat can extreme heat and extreme cold can exacerbate those things. But otherwise, get out when you can, when it's inviting to get it done. Yeah.
All right. Question though too. What about like folks who are, again, are there things that people should be thinking about if they're on certain, say, prescriptions and things like that as well too? Like, say they're taking medications and things, or there certain things people should be thinking about, or certain medications that that folks, I don't know, should be, again, another kind of thing they should just think about their exertion versus what they're taking.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
A common medication for folks who have diabetes, for example, is insulin, which is an injection. But there are also pills that work similarly to insulin that will lower your blood sugar. Well, one of the best natural things to do for blood sugar control, say after a meal, is to exercise. Go for a walk, go for a hike. We see that spike of blood sugar that normally happens after breakfast, lunch, and dinner is much smoother and lower if right after you finish your meal, you go for a 15-minute walk, or you go do something in the garden for 15 minutes, right? So that's cool with timing, but if, say, you haven't had breakfast and you're going to go do something strenuous, but you've given yourself your dose of insulin or taken your glipizide pill or glyburide or glimepiride, some of these other things, whatever, you want to be cognizant of low blood sugar, which is hypoglycemia, and that can be much more dangerous in a all of a sudden acute setting than running your sugar a little bit too high. So if you're not used to exercise and you give your usual dose of insulin and then you go work for 2 hours in the garden, your blood sugar might get too low. So be cognizant of that. Same thing with blood pressure pills, diuretics, which is a medicine that helps you pee out more fluid, and that helps to reduce the pressure in your blood vessels, lowering your blood pressure. If you're out on a hot day, plus you're peeing a lot because you're on a diuretic, you have to worry about dehydration. But blood pressure pills in general, if you're not maintaining your hydration and you're getting a little bit on the low side, you can pass out, crack your head, and things like that. There's a medication, doxycycline, which has been around for a long time, and you can take it for various reasons. Sometimes for skin conditions like acne or rosacea, sometimes for an infection, sometimes for malaria prophylaxis. That's probably why I took it the most, was when I was working in Africa in areas where there was malaria. But anyway, for whatever reason you're taking doxycycline, your skin is more sun sensitive, and you can get a horrible burn when otherwise you wouldn't have in that same amount of time if you weren't taking doxycycline. So there are a couple of things that come to mind, but in general, well tolerated even if you're on medications.
Excellent. Right on, right on. All right, everybody as well too. Again, jump into our chat here if you've got a question for Dr. Jeff here about gardening and exercise and all of that. Love to see your questions here. Let's see what we got. Another one from David. Let's see. How about, are there creative ways to turn small space or container gardens into exercise?
Yeah, sure. So I grow in an urban setting. I guess most of I imagine most of the people who are tuning in grow in an urban setting. And that's just fine for exercise. It's funny when you think of the modern day super farmer in America, you don't it doesn't necessarily conjure the picture of health, because a lot of farmers nowadays are either behind the computer or driving a very fancy machine, and that's doing most of the work for them. But when you think of a farmer in rural Africa or rural Latin America or rural Asia who's doing 100% of the work themselves in a small plot, that might be, a quarter of an acre as compared to someone who's got 1,000 acres, right? They don't have that machinery. They don't have that technology. They're just doing labor. So I think, by having a small space, by having a garden where you're doing things manually, you're getting much more exercise than somebody who's trying to manage 1,000 acres just out of necessity. So, a lot of my gardening is in pots and raised beds to maximize space. And also we've got a fair amount of concrete. And so I think just doing your gardening naturally will do that. I think about what about exercise? If you've got, you got a basil plant and on the windowsill, and you got some microgreens and some sprouts, does that lead to exercise? I mean, it actually turns out that it does, because the idea of nudging us out of our seat, which I've mentioned, is that it's cumulative, right? So you get up and you water your basil plant, and then you go and you do a little bit of computer work, and then you rinse your sprouts and you put them down, and then you go back to your computer, and then you get up and you clip your microgreens for lunch. Like, all those tiny little expenditures add up. mean, there was a study out of Australia that showed, compared to people who sit a lot, just standing cut your risk of dying during the study. It decreased your mortality, is what we would say when referring to that in the literature. Just standing. It's amazing how bad sitting all day is for us. And so even just having, I don't have a study to say that it is growing, wheatgrass on your windowsill good for your health. But I imagine that all those little nudges, it would add up, just like how we think about it in other ways.
Yeah, and kind of an expanding on that question a little bit, though, too, is that, maybe, we want to create an exercise routine instead of it just being just general, I'm going to go out in the garden and do this and that, but I'm also have that hour or whatever that I intend to go to the gym for. I can really kind of take some things and just really utilize some stuff to within the gardening. And maybe, again, also, as I was mentioning before too, is like create reps and create things that we can do to like specifically maybe instead of just taking the pot, that we were doing, and moving it over here, maybe we pick it up a few times, right?
Right.
And maybe do some things like that, or maybe, just kind of put a little bit extra into whatever we're doing in order to really make it a great exercise routine, right?
I mean, totally doable if you're like, I want to make sure I get my 2 or 3 weightlifting sessions in this week, but I can't today because the gym's closed or something. Well, then as I do my work in the garden, instead of just doing the natural movements, I'm going to do some curls with the, watering buckets, and I'm going to, do some squat. Like, fine, that's cool. And that's kicking it up a notch. Do I think that is necessary to get a benefit from it exercise wise? No. But I think either one's fine, depending on what you feel like doing. I told my friend the other day, he's like, man, how much are you running? And I'm like, I run right now during the summer when things are busy. I run once a week with my lovely wife. We go out for a run together, and I can feel, how he feels about hearing that, and how I feel saying that like, geez, this guy's only running once a week. But I'm working hours every day in my garden, including the day that I run and the other 6 days of the week. And all of that is exercise, whether or not you are trying to exercise or not. But if you want to kick it up a notch, maybe mentally, because you're like, man, I'm not getting enough of a workout. Yeah, sure, man. Do some tricep extensions with that, half bag of mulch or something if you want to.
Right. Yeah. Find ways. And that, again, too, as we were mentioning before, you see folks in gyms trying to replicate things that are naturally being done. So if you see something that looks like, it's good movement and, and that sort of thing, go at it and start, like, I can get out there. And like, I've always carried these wicking pots around and moving around the garden again, too, because I tons and tons of containers that I have. And then we're moving around during different times of the season and all of that too. So, how much more fun could it be than just to, it's like I said, so go to the gym, let's just lift those up, do a few reps and then get it over there, and do that sort of thing. But overall, what is a good amount of time to be spending doing exercise in any sort of whether it is in the gym or even in our gardens and stuff? What should we be thinking about as far as if we're intending to exercise and doing it intentionally? How much time should we really be spending doing this?
Yeah, so those guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control, those national guidelines that say 150 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise a week, are based on studies that sort of showed that you start, if we did 5 minutes of aerobic exercise a week, would we make a big dent in preventing illness and preventing early death, premature death? Probably not 5 minutes exercise a week. But when you get to 150 minutes of exercise a week, which is 30 minutes 5 times a day of aerobic exercise, you see that on the curve of the graph, that things are really getting better. Does that mean that if you did 200 minutes of aerobic exercise a week, it would be a waste, or 300 minutes of aerobic exercise a week? Or no, there is no ceiling to benefit of time working out, but there's diminishing returns. And so if I work out, whether I work out 12 hours a week or 13 hours a week, yes, there might be a little bit more benefit of working out 13 hours a week, but it's not very different between working out 12 hours a week or 13 hours a week. But is there a huge difference between working out 1 hour a week and 3 hours a week? Yeah, that's a huge difference. Or maybe we use as a better example that 1 hour difference, the difference between working out 0 hours a week and 1 hour a week, huge difference. 1 hour a week and 2 hours a week, huge difference. 2 and 3, huge difference. But like 14 hours a week and 15 hours a week, very, very little difference. So I would say work out as much as you can based on your schedule. If based on your schedule, you can only get 20 minutes of exercise a week, you got to look at your schedule and see how can you change that. But I think I tell people try to get 150 minutes of aerobic exercise a week, but more is better. And especially when you're looking at things like cancer, folks who say they've had a diagnosis of cancer and they want to try to prevent recurrence after treatment. That's one of those areas where you do want to try to up it, not just 150, but maybe 300 minutes of of moderate exercise a week, something like that.
So you said about 150 on the other side is about the minimum that you should be looking at.
That's a good minimum. And for folks who don't have very much time, remember that was the difference, the difference between moderate and vigorous. And so if you're like, man, I got 20 minutes to work out, or I've got 15 minutes to work out today. Well, don't go for a stroll around your block in those 15 minutes. If you can, go for, do some high intensity stuff. Or I was actually just looking at a study of exercise, and they were comparing how does blood pressure respond to different types of exercise. And one of the most effective ways to drop your blood pressure, one was aerobic exercise, but another one is isometric exercise. And that's like doing a wall sit, where you're sort of like squatting, but leaning against the wall, or a plank, or some of these things, some of these positions you'd see like in yoga, and probably Pilates and things like this, to where you're holding a pose. Like that's very effective for dropping blood pressure. And so the weather can be pretty bad outside, and you're like, I don't want to go for a jog right now, but I'm going to do some wall sits and some planks for 15 minutes. And that's going to be great for folks, for example, who have high blood pressure or want to avoid it.
Could you explain the difference there, those two different forms of exercise?
Oh yeah. So and I suppose you could do it out in the garden if you wanted to, but so a wall sit is a type of isometric exercise, to where you hold a pose that you are in contraction, for example, and you hold it for a while. So you could just put your back up against a wall and pretend that you're sitting in a chair, but there's no chair there. The wall helps to keep you from falling, but you're contracting your big leg muscles. And so that's one. A plank, it's sort of like maybe you do a half push up and you just sit and you just kind of freeze there. Different ways that you can do it. The whole idea about exercise when it comes, for example, to blood sugar is the major utilizer of sugar in our blood, glucose in our blood, is skeletal muscles. So the more skeletal muscle you have, the more that it can utilize that blood sugar. And of course, just exercising, the muscle says, hey, I need glucose for the energy pathways in order to contract. And so going for that walk 15 minutes, that 15-minute walk after you eat really brings all that blood sugar into your skeletal muscles. Gardening right after you eat will help bring that blood sugar into your muscles, instead of having it hang out in the bloodstream where it can do more damage to our organs.
Yeah. And so you're mentioning 150 like as a minimum. More is great. But again, and I think you touched on it a little bit there, but also piecing it out is okay too. Yeah. That 150.
Yeah. And it's probably better than doing so, what's that? 2 hours is 120. So we're looking at like 2.5 hours. It's probably better not to do 2.5 hours once a week and nothing for the next 6 days. If you can, it's probably better to break it up during the week in smaller pieces. But in addition to that aerobic exercise, you want to get some sort of resistance training. And the cool thing about gardening is that it just all happens together, right? Like I don't say, okay, today is my resistance training day, and so I'm going to only lift things in the garden. No, I just say I'm going to garden, and it ends up that you're doing all of those things naturally.
Yeah, right on. Excellent. Let's see. So much stuff. I mean, it's like, where do we go next here? Anything you think we're thinking of leaving out or anything right now? Or I mean, we're just hitting up so much real quick here on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's good stuff. I think I think a major barrier to this, and maybe I'm projecting, but a major barrier to this discussion is still going to be like, you're joking. I mean, you're saying that I can choose between working in the garden versus doing a crazy workout at the gym, and they're both okay to do. And I think that exercise in general is good. Do the one that you're going to do most often. Even for folks that garden, do I think that it could be good to do weightlifting and running? Yeah, that's what I do all that together. But like, we shouldn't see gardening as like this hobby thing that's like, oh yeah, I can either choose to collect stamps from around the world or garden, and they're both hobbies, and either one is fine. Well, I would say if you want to be a stamp collector, that's cool, but you're not going to get the same health benefits from doing that. But we shouldn't say that, well, I gardened today for a couple of hours, but man, I still haven't done any physical activity, so I have to go to the gym or something like that. It's just like, no, man, it all adds up. So don't be afraid to count working in the garden as something that's beneficial for us.
Yeah. Don't discount the effort you're putting in there. Again, too, you'll probably find, and probably a lot of people just don't think about the exercise that they're getting through their garden.
Yeah, look at I like to talk about this because it's such a cool experiment and concept, but the research that's been done with Dan Buettner and his team of doctors and scientists looking at the blue zones, the areas around the world that have the highest concentration of elderly that have very little chronic illness. It's not like in Okinawa and Sardinia, Italy, and Icaria, Greece, that the reason why they're in good shape is because there's a Gold's Gym on every corner. No, it's just that they do natural exercise all the time because they're walking and they have a garden, and that they, are less likely to drive to the corner store, even though it's a block away. And so there's just this natural component of getting around, using our hands to, blend the batter for your sourdough bread instead of pressing a button and letting the machine do it. So all this kind of stuff just adds up and is a part of natural movement during the day.
Yeah, right on. And let's see here. Get another question in here from Bowtie Life. He asks, how do you explain the link between soil health and human health? There we go. That's a different.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing the similarities between, what do we talk about all the time in gardening, which is, if you want to have healthy plants, you need healthy soil, right?
Yeah.
You want to feed that soil so that you have healthy plants. Can your plants get by just like pumping them full of liquid NPK? Yeah, they can get by and they can do well. I mean, look at conventional modern agriculture, we're able to feed millions of people based on crappy soil and can I say that on your channel?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's fine.
Uh,
We can get away with that one.
But potentially poor soil and relying on more additives. But compare that to the organic movement, which can give some really good yields and be better for the environment and be better for the farm worker because they're exposed to fewer chemicals, etc. So very similar to the human body, that our microbiome, those trillions of organisms that live on our skin, in our mouth, in our predominantly in our large intestine, in our colon, like we need those to be healthy. We had an expert gastroenterologist that some of your folks might know of, Will Bulshewitz, was speaking at the conference, and was chatting with him this morning about poop, which is what you do when you talk to a gastroenterologist.
That's
and
right.
One of the cool things that he points out in his lecture is that there are more bacteria and other microbes than human cells. So there is more of them than there is of us per person. So like I've got trillions more bacteria, fungi, viruses, parasites, etc., living in and on me than I have cells of my skin and
Wow,
my
that's crazy to think about, huh?
So it's not just that we've got like 6 or a dozen little bacteria living in us. It's like we are mostly not us, and it redefines how we kind of think of ourselves. But anyway, and that research is a super hot topic to where, you know, just scientific papers are coming out every day and looking more at this connection between our soil health, our microbiota, and our own health. And it turns out that it's not like you might think, okay, well, if I have a healthy gut, maybe I gut bugs, then maybe I have better bowel movements or something like that. But it's like tied to brain health, and it's tied to cardiovascular health, and it's tied to diabetes, and it's all tied to inflammation, which is this chronic inflammation is at the root of so much of illness. Okay. So to get back to the question, is how do you tie these things together? Is just that I can feed my plants stuff that's like supercharged and maybe not all that good for the soil and maybe actively hurts it, and I can get away with it for a while. But then at the end, eventually, right, we've got a totally depleted soil and we have a plant that can't survive without all of these inputs, and it wears out. And it's the same thing with us. Like we can run on the wrong fuel. Like the most common fuel in America right now is ultra processed foods. So, you know, chips and the soda and the, dessert and the cheeseburger and all this kind of stuff on the white bun. Like I can run on that fuel for a while. And for a while, I might mean 20 years or 30 years. But then you start seeing the blood pressure goes up. And then you start seeing the diabetes creep in. Then you see, you know, your waistline is getting away from you. And our most common reaction is that, man, I just got these bad genes. But it turns out that while genes are there with us from our parents, whether or not these genes are turned on or off is based on what we do day in and day out. And so we have control over the health of our organism by doing things with our microbiome, eating the right food that feeds them and therefore makes us healthier. And so, I mean, there's just a lot of connections between that. The more microbiomes that we're exposed to in the soil, the better our microbiome also changes. Each, an apple has a certain microbiome, a carrot has a different microbiome. And as we're eating these things, we are getting different nutrients from them, but also being exposed to different bacteria, et cetera. And it's just amazing. We know so little, even though there are thousands of research papers, thousands that have come out on this topic, we still know so little about it. So, it's a fascinating area of science, and we're going to be just learning more year after year.
I don't know what I was thinking there too, and what you were saying is I remember hearing or reading about something not too long ago, and as you were talking about how we've got to do certain things to enact certain things in our genes and all these
Yeah.
sort of things, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking of like there was at least I don't even know, I have to make sure, but they're twins. You know, you
Yes.
have twins who have, they're pretty much the same genetically, right? But depending on what they do, their activity, their consumption of nutrients and all these sort of things, and the difference of those can completely kind of change them as they work through their life, right?
Yeah. I mean, an identical
I don't
twin.
know what I don't know why I thought of that really, but it was just something I thought was really interesting there.
Yeah, I think it's very pertinent. Like an identical twin doesn't just have similar genes to, her
Mhm.
sister or his brother, but exactly the same genes, 100% the same genes. They are genetically identical. But then based on that, you would think that, well, if one brother gets diabetes at age 40, then the other brother is going to get diabetes at age 42, right? This is if
Right.
it's a purely genetic thing. But it's not, but that's not true at all. You might have it's so much of it is not which genes we have, but what our genes do, and whether or not these genes are turned on and off depends on what we are eating and how we're moving and what we're how much we're sleeping and how much we're stressing and whether or not we
Yeah.
smoke 2 packets of cigarettes a day, or do we finish our meals with a cup of blueberries, and that puts these twins, for example, on very different pathways.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll,
That's
t-
great.
I'll tell you one thing real quick before we leave this topic about
No problem.
related to disease and the microbiome is there's probably not a lot of folks yet, some because you'll see it in the press, but to know about fecal transplants. So stay with me here because it's a little weird.
Yeah,
but
I've heard about this. John
Okay.
and I talked about this once. John Kohler. That's right.
Oh yeah, John's great, and I'm sure he would be fascinated by it too. But sometimes, so if you, I think this has also been shown in human studies, but definitely has been shown in animal studies, where if you take a normal weight mouse, and you give them an injection into their gut with a fecal transplant from an obese mouse, that mouse will then become obese. And then if you transplant them from a skinny mouse, then they will more likely get skinny again. And so our microbiome is in charge of lots of things, including how well we absorb calories and how we gain weight and things like that. But like certain sort of illnesses, that someone gets a horrible intestinal illness from a bacteria called Clostridium difficile, the antibiotics aren't working, they're about to die, maybe surgery is going to help them. You can, in certain cases, you can give them a fecal transplant from someone else, like through the tube in the nose or whatever, and then they get better because the good microbiome, the good soil gets inside of them. And the bad stuff is kicked out, and the good stuff multiplies and takes the place, and the person is healed and can skip surgery in some cases. So our gut bacteria, our soil is incredibly unique from person to person, and you can have a healthy soil or you can have an unhealthy soil, and so much of that is dictated by our habits.
Yeah, let's see here. I think David had a follow-up here. Microbes in the body, do you ascribe to a 1:1 ratio of human cells to microbial cells? Was that 1:13 ratio or a higher number in the ratio?
There are more microbial cells than human cells in our body.
1.3.
Yeah, I think the exact ratio is not known, but I think because every year that I go to a lecture, the number's a little bit different. But the idea is that we are outnumbered. But the good news is that the vast majority of those microbes are our friends, right? We feed them the good stuff, and they produce something called short chain fatty acids, which keep us healthier. And so this interaction between microbes and human cells, I mean, it's fascinating, just like the interaction that we're still learning with the soil food web between how the bacteria and the fungi and the mycorrhiza and all this kind of stuff are working together to keep our plants healthy.
Yeah. Mobius is saying this is why I ferment garden food. Fermenting is could you explain that a little bit? How that, I mean, because I've heard that as like a big recommendation as well too for our gut biome, right?
Yeah, sure. The fermented foods, so these are food, we've been fermenting foods for thousands of years, and you want to do it safely. You want to know what you're doing, or buying from a reputable source, but it's very straightforward to do it at home. But you're under certain conditions, you get the right bacteria or the right fungi or the right combination of the two to grow. And this leads to further health benefits. There's studies in the gastrointestinal literature that show adding some fermented foods to your diet helps with inflammation and other chronic illnesses. So is it a good idea to have some kimchi or have some sauerkraut or to have some sourdough bread? Definitely. And so this is a natural process that we have learned to sort of tweak through culinary practices over the millennia to get benefit. I mean, for one reason, people were doing it, of course, to keep food stable, right? In the old days, you got a bunch of cabbages and you're not just going to chop them up and juice them and put them in your freezer because you didn't have any of that stuff, right? You would chop them up and add salt and put them in a closed container, but let the air bubble and all this kind of stuff. And then you've got sauerkraut that's going to last for a long, long time. And just about maybe every culture has developed the fermentation processes over the years.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I think this is an interesting question real quick here. Why is food you grow yourself often healthier than store-bought produce?
Yeah,
these are thought about this all as a doctor or anything like that? As you're thinking about food consumption or recommending food to people,
Yeah, I mean, so maybe my first response to this will tie it back to the physical activity topic that we've been on today. But if I buy a peach from the store and compare that to the peach that I dormant pruned in the winter, I did summer pruning, maybe did a spray with neem oil to keep the fungus, a bad fungus off of it, or whatever. When you add it all up, and then I threw compost on the base and I hand watered it, and like the story behind that peach that I picked off my tree has helped my personal health out much greater than the peach that I bought from the store. Now, it's not a one-to-one comparison. Like I think some folks want to know, like, well, what about discount all that stuff? Don't think about the stuff that you did before the day that you ate it. Is one healthier than the other? And I think the main difference there is that thank goodness we have a food supply that can get us fresh food all around the United States every day of the year, basically, right? Thank goodness for that. I'm very thankful that I can eat bananas and not depend on myself growing my bananas, right? Like, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not knocking the modern food distribution for that reason. But I will say that one of the challenges is if you are picking a tomato in Central California and you're trying to get it to Vermont, you're not going to pick it at perfect ripeness. And we've developed all sorts of cool ways to let it survive shipping and mature it in time for the grocery shelves on the Vermont grocery shelf. But it seems that oftentimes produce picked at peak ripeness not only has the best flavor, but might have the best nutrition. And I can't say that that's true for every fruit and vegetable. And there's going to be some that it's more true for. But if you've grown in an organic way, free of pesticides, picking it at peak ripeness, just the food content of it can be better, plus all the extra benefits that you got from the sun and the exercise and the sharing time in the garden with your loved one, etc. Like, so that's why I think altogether they're incomparable.
Yeah. Let's see. Rick was saying I heard that picking food and eating it in the first 10 minutes is the best in nutrition. It does lose nutrients as it the longer it's been off of a plant or a tree or something.
Yeah. I don't think the 10-minute rule, Rick, it holds true for everything, or at least I haven't heard that. I think that the idea, though, is the longer it has been picked from, the more chance that certain components are going to, or the longer it's been picked for, the more chance that certain beneficial compounds will break down. For taste, for an example, is that classic, like if you've grown sweet corn, they say first thing that you do when you're going to eat sweet corn from your patch is to boil the water, right? Because you want the water, the pot boiling, so that boom, then you cut off the corn and you throw it in, and that might be a little bit of hyperbole, but corn that you pick today and eat 4 days from now just tastes different than corn that you pick and eat 10 minutes later. So, and that's
then there's things though, like pears, like it's recommended you're picking pears off of your tree, and you want them to ripen off of the tree. So in some senses, at that point, you got to, it's going to take a few days for that thing to get to peak ripeness, and it gets back to what you were saying on that, right?
Yeah, that's a good exception to that, is that at least the pear varieties that I know, they're not going to ripen on the tree. And if you just leave them on there, they are often, bad by the time you get them. They fall in and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, you pick them when they're easy you just lift them and they fall off in your hand basically. And then they're going to need, 3 to 14 days on the counter, depending on the varietal and all this kind of stuff to get delicious and juicy.
All right. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Here's maybe a real kind of specific question. Will was asking just a little bit earlier. He says, what I could use is a nutritionist who works with those with altered guts. Are you familiar with anyone working with patients after large bowel removal?
Yeah, good question, Will.
Yeah.
There are a couple of ways to look at it. So the group of docs that I work with, we're called Lifestyle Telemedicine, and we see people around the United States and can work with folks who've had altered guts. A couple of sources, if you're looking specifically for a dietitian, there's some cool search places to search for them. So one is associated with this Plantrition Project. If you type in Plantrition Project and say like find a provider or find a dietitian, you'll go to a place called the Plantrition Providers, and they just have like by state and by specialty, dietitian in Michigan or something like that. And you can find someone close to you. A very similar, basically the same thing of providers is also found in a great organization called the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And that website is pcrm.org. PCRM stands for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And they have a directory, and, find a doc or find a dietitian, and you can find someone who might have an office down the street from you with experience in that. So a couple of different places that you can look for that.
Excellent. Yeah. It's good to find someone who really knows and understands what you're looking for one, and then understands what what you've been through too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a good, I mentioned Will Bolshewitz, who's this gastroenterologist that spoke at this conference here. He's got books and a nice website, and you might be able to contact him if you're looking also to talk to a gastroenterologist, but there are a lot out there that are also really good in addition to him.
Okay, one more question from the audience, and then I'll get you with one last one here real quick. Serena asks, I just finished sweating from hot flashes, no exercise. Is there a way to reduce or eliminate hot flashes?
Serena, it sounds like a planted question because I was just at a lecture where the head of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Dr. Neil Barnard, was talking about this. And it's a pretty well-known study for folks that are lifestyle medicine docs like myself, where they took a group of women who were perimenopausal, and they put them on a low-fat, plant-based diet that had half a cup of soybeans in their diet every day.
Mm-hmm.
And soybeans are known to have a type of plant estrogen, a phytoestrogen, that is actually really good for us. Early studies in mice seemed like, oh no, was it associated with cancer? But that's old school, and the studies in humans have shown all sorts of great things, like decreased hot flashes, which we're talking about here, help with cutting risk for breast cancer and all sorts of stuff. So basically, they put women on a low-fat, plant-based diet high in soybeans, and they saw hot flashes decrease by something like 85% or 88%. It was just about as good as hormone replacement therapy. And for women, and hormone replacement therapy's got some risks associated with it. Can be the right thing for the right person, but you have to be talking to your doc about that. Mm-hmm. But something that we can all do, everyone who's being challenged with hot flashes and other perimenopausal type symptoms, is to check that out. And so look up PCRM and hot flash soybean study, or, talk to one of us in our group or whatever. But the idea is, yes, there's, you can even grow your own soybeans, though that would be a fair amount of work to get enough to have a half a cup of mature soybeans a day. But, but otherwise you can get them at the store in bulk and, soak them and cook them.
I think they're going to be plentiful this fall.
What's that?
Soybeans.
Okay.
That's just an outside comment. I think soybeans will be plentiful this year.
Okay.
Let's see here. Real quick though, too, again, Jeff, thank you so much. I know you're out of this conference, you got things to get doing and all that sort of stuff. And it's just really awesome. You took your time today to come be on the show here and talk all about, gardening as medicine, more focused on exercise this time around. And again, as we move forward with other discussions, we'll look at other aspects of gardening as medicine. But last question for you here real quick, or more so, is, if you got, we'll finish up kind of statement on the subject today, maybe a recommendation, or as well as we'll call it, a prescription for folks out there, in a sense, from Dr. Jeff about gardening and exercise. Yeah.
So just generally speaking, while I can't give, specific medical advice to you, but generally speaking,
we're going to say prescription, not.
The reasons to garden are multiple, and it's not all about the tomato that you harvest at the end of the season, even though that is a very great part of it. But it's all the parts in addition to that harvest that are benefiting us in so many ways. And so do as much of it as you can. Share the experience and your produce with others, and you will see you're just continue to see your health improve. And if you are gardening and you are still suffering from multiple conditions and you feel like you're not getting any better, then work with a lifestyle medicine doc and figure out, well, why am I not seeing all the benefits that I could see? What can I do more of? Do I need to work out more? Do I need to, I'm working out, I'm eating great, but I'm only sleeping 4 hours a day. Oh yeah, that's a point that I need to work on. Or I'm sleeping great and I'm working out, but my main source of, calories is Spam every day or something like that. So just work with your local or online lifestyle telemedicine doc, and they will be able to sort of pick this apart and say, this is how we can take your health to the next level.
Yes. Excellent. And again, too, we got links for Dr. Jeff down below in the description, the telemedicine link and all of that as well, too. So, if you're looking for doctors, you're looking for all that, go check all that out as well, too. Jay has been putting in some really great links of things that we've been talking about, different organizations and all of that, too. So, check out some of those links too. And again, Jeff, just an amazing conversation. So much great information. Just a wonderful show, packed with so much. So again, thank you so much for spending your time today. I'm going to let you go so you get back to your conference there. And we definitely look forward to seeing you again here soon on the show and to talk a little bit more about all of this.
For sure. See you in a couple of months. Thank you for all the great stuff that you are doing. And I love all the love and the connection that you see when you're looking at the chat and the responses, that you're clearly helping to create a space of healing here that's just fun to be around. So thanks for having me.
Oh man, just so wonderful. And really, we all benefit from great folks like yourself spending your time with us. And thank you all again from me and everybody else. And we'll see you on the next time around to hang out with, or on our next appointment with Dr. Jeff.
Right on. All right.
Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pest, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
All right, all right. Again, what an awesome conversation. Oh, am I frozen here? Did it freeze me? Ah. Oh no. My camera's frozen. Oh boy. Well, there we go. Nice little frozen thing here. I don't know what I could do here. No, my cameras, I'm telling you, they're giving me some great issues here right now. Let's see what I could do here with this. One moment, everybody. Let's just pop this up real quick here. Oh my. These cameras are just giving me too much fun here on the show lately. All right. Maybe that'll work. Okay, there we go. Now we're back. Oh boy. Anyways, what a great conversation with Dr. Jeff there on the show today, talking all about gardening as medicine and our focus on exercise today. So I hope that you all got a lot from that. I know I sure did. Just such a great conversation with someone who's really just focused on how gardening really benefits us in so many different ways and in our health. And it's not just the food that we're getting from our gardens and all of that. There's all these other just really wonderful aspects to how gardening can really improve our health and all of that. I see Serena was asking, does Dr. Jeff have a YouTube channel? I don't think he's done a YouTube channel. He probably should for sure, but he does have a website and all of that down below in the links, like I said before, too. And if you're looking for a good doctor who's focused on these sort of things too here in the US as well, you can check out that telehealth link as well, too. Right on. Excellent. So right on, you guys. Thank you so much for being here and participating in our conversation today. Just a really great show, like I said. And if you get a chance to, again, here, we'll go over a couple of things before we head out here. Go back and check out this conversation. If you didn't get a chance to see the whole conversation, go back and check us out on the replay. And as well, too, we got some stuff coming up here on the show. We got our garden tour. I'm going to do a summer garden tour. We're going to release here on Tuesday. Keep an eye out for that one. This is good reason to hit that bell notification so you can get notified here about that video coming up. And then on Thursday, I've got a feature video premiere coming out of a visit we did a little while back ago to the Fig Hunter in the Fig Hunter's farm there. They got hundreds and hundreds of different just really cool fig varieties that they've hunted down, I guess you'd say, and procured out in the wild as well too. And just a lot of really great stuff there on that video. Look forward to that here this Thursday coming up, because that'll be a great video to check out before we head out for our next live stream on the next live stream we're going to be doing here next Saturday on the show. We're going to be live at the Fig Fest being held by the Fig Hunter and One Seed at a Time. There'll be other folks there like Dave Wilson Nurseries and a few others as well too. So hopefully we'll be able to get some good interviews and have a fun live show at this event. And again, a nice test for me. I'm kind of nervous as we're leading up to it here, you know, that we're going to be doing a live show in front of people at a live event and all of that. I'm sure it's going to go great. I'm sure we're going to have a good time, hopefully, as long as everything works out too, again, when it comes down to equipment and all of that sort of stuff. But definitely going to be a fun show this next Saturday. So come and check that out as well. Next Sunday is the second Sunday of the month, and we usually have our good friend Gardener Scott on with us, but Scott is going to have to take the day off because that day lines right up with his granddaughter's birthday, and I know how that goes. As we had already earlier this year, I had to take the day off from our Saturday show because that was the same day as my granddaughter's birthday. So Scott's gonna be spending the time with his granddaughter, and I probably will be taking the time to maybe do a couple of other things as I'm traveling into California and back and all of that for our live show on that Saturday. But if there's an opportunity for me to jump on around that time period for everybody, I'll jump on and do that, or set up basically a live chat for everyone so you guys can all get together if you still want to as well for next Sunday. So be aware of that coming up, as well as, of course, we've got our monthly gardening book clubs. We've got our monthly gardening book clubs, and we've got two of them this month. It's a back to school feature on our monthly gardening book club this month. And so we're featuring two different books on gardening and children's books in gardening. And we've got a couple of great authors that we're featuring this month to talk all about gardening and education on our third Sunday, normal Sunday for our gardening book club. We're going to have with us Marcus Bridgewater and his book that he just published recently called See Marcus Grows, which just is a great little children's book talking all about little Marcus hanging out with his grandmother in his grandmother's garden. And really fun book, really great book. And we're going to have a great conversation with him, our co-host, Mr. Mark Richey Colbert, who's also a gardening educator himself and teaches young children all about growing and gardening. So this will be a really fun conversation with Marcus. And then on the next Sunday, Mark will be back with us again for our second book that we're featuring by Dr. Vikram Baliga, Plants to the Rescue. This is just a really great book, again, for maybe a little older kids, more so than See Marcus Grows, but a great book full of lots of great science and all of that as well, too, when it comes to growing and everything. Dr. Baliga also teaches and is a professor at Texas Tech, teaching growing and agriculture and all these sort of things. So we'll be able to expand into that conversation a little bit into higher gardening education when it comes down to it. And there's tons of careers and things out there in the growing field as well that we can touch on and talk about as well for those out there looking to expand into other things. And as we heard last week on the show, we had last Sunday, like I said, we had the garden party here. And one of the things that we learned from Desiree from Gardening with Des is that she's actually attending Texas Tech now and getting And I can't remember exactly what classes she said she's taking, but she's right there at Dr. Baliga's college as well too, to learn more about growing and careers and all of that and growing. So again, good reason to go back and check out last Sunday's show as well. But right on. Yeah, again too, like I said, really, really great show today, and really thank you all so much for being here and participating with today's show. And if you can here before we head out, definitely click that like button, hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and share with all of your garden friends out there and let them know that they can catch some really great conversations again, maybe for our next appearance with Dr. Jeff, as we'll have him back here again real soon to talk more about gardening as medicine. And let them know about our show. Let them know about all of these great guests. Let them know we're here every Saturday and Sunday, except for this next Sunday. But here at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And again, thank you everybody for being here. Follow those links down below. Remember, one last time I'll tell you too, we got that link also down below to not just Jeff and all of his links, which once you go to check out our other social media, but I've got that link for that video from Alan over at Gardening with Hot Potato, where he's giving away some dragon fruit. So you want to go and check out that video. Go and let him know in the video, in the comments, and just comment in the video and say that you saw him here on the Let's Get Growing show and that you love dragon fruit, and you'll be entered in with that comment to win 8 pounds, he said earlier, 8 pounds that he's going to send to you for free of dragon fruit that he's grown there in his gardens. And you've got till Tuesday. In fact, Tuesday is when he's going to do the drawing for that. So go check that out for sure. Linked down below. And then also too, again, I want to thank everybody who's been donating to our show and our channel and all of that as well too. We've been getting some great donations from everybody, and really help us pay for the computer and all that sort of stuff that we needed to. But we're also continuing to take donations, as again, I want to be able to do more fun things with the show, like this trip that we're going to be taking next week to the Fig Fest, and possibly this next coming February to the Seattle Flower and Garden Show. So again, thank you to all of those of you who can contribute and help donate to Let's Get Growing show and the Urban Gardener channel. Really, really appreciate it. We do have those links as well down below to more direct donations like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, those sort of things. And again, I really, really appreciate those of you who will drop a few bucks our way to help us do some really fun things with the show. And as well to those of you who can't donate, it's no problem at all. Just continue to do those really cool free things that you can for the show. Like we said, hitting that thumbs up button, commenting on our videos, and as well to supporting our guests who are taking their time to be on the show as well too, by going and checking out their websites, their channels, and supporting them as well too. Those things are really, really a great way to help contribute and support our show. So again, thank you everybody for being here this weekend. I just really appreciate all of you and all of your contributions to our discussion and all the great questions for Dr. Jeff today, and being a part of this wonderful growing community here on the Let's Get Growing show. So again, thank you all so much for being here, and I'll see all of you guys again this next Saturday for our live show at the Fig Fest. We'll see all of you then.
power out,